Yeah.
You came out of the basketball team one year. And you. That's gonna be.
I don't know why this way, well, I don't know why. There's one of them, I know, the other one, I don't know. Like maybe he started at one and. Yeah. So she's working, where she says she's working out of.
Well, they were touching the other person. That'll be all. That's going on.
That's all you guys need from us.
I heard one, he quit for 4 years, got one injury. We've got one that, this is part of my job, his main job, and that's really nice. He's a $1 million. He's all for it. He turned in his notice that he can start getting ready to switch his farm over. Ready for somebody else.
I am just like, so upset.
There's a lot.
Yeah. 67. That is like all the other.
You're ready to go.
You want to look at yeah. So, I guess a lot of our proper workers and their fees. Thank you both for coming in earlier than scheduled to help us try to get some of this wrapped up. Okay, we'll start with Terry. Alright. Council, this will be on page 5 of your findings. Recorder's office. As you can see on my report, pretty much all we're asking for is an increase in wages, just to keep up with the cost of living. Everything else is pretty self-sufficient in my office. Now, this is one of the easiest budgets to review. Yeah. Okay, council, you have any questions for Terry?
Yeah.
Things going well? Yes. And then, equipment wise, were you and Emily sharing a printer at some point in time? I know she has a new printer, and I felt like we are probably using that about as much as she is. So that's why we, went in on that with her, because it benefits our office as well. Any other updates you'd like to share? Really, everything is just running smooth. Council, any questions for Gary?
How's the digital? A couple of years ago, you were looking to maybe digitize some of the records.
Oh, well, before I even took office, that was in the process. Yes, we're moving right along with that. We work on that every day. Bringing in some of the older documents, but we're back at least 40 years on most of it, where a lot of the searchers don't even have to come into the office. If they have a subscription, they can do it from their office or from home. Sometimes they might have something they have to come and look at, or they can call us. We can check on something for them. But there's not too many that come in the office anymore. And before the end of the year, we'll be implementing the conveyance documents, being to e-record those, and that'll cut down on a lot of our traffic also in the office. They'll just send it by email. They won't have to send anybody from their office to bring documents in to be recorded. It's doing business so much faster. Oh, yes. Yeah, a lot less time. Yeah. Anything else? All right. Thank you, Terry. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Nancy, would you like to come up? Council, we are on page 4 of your binder for the treasurer's office. Everybody doing?
Guys, go ahead and start.
Yeah, if you're gonna go ahead, Anthony, and talk about your line items, specifically the changes in your line items, and then provide any sort of updates for us for your office, and then we'll ask questions.
I've asked for increases in wages, because same as what Terry said, cost of living going up. And we always want to make sure we have good employees that we're paying them. So, on my part-time budget, last year I had 1,000 in there. I don't use my part-time. Terry graciously lets, one of her girls come over and help me during tax time when we get a little too busy. So it was just, so I lowered it by $500, and I probably won't even use that $500 that's in there. The only other changes I made, the tax statements, I went ahead and put $204 in there because they have gone up every year from last year's budget. And then there's been some recent things changed from the time I turned in my paperwork to Michelle. We got an email in June that our conferences, the cost is going up for each conference. So I just added $300. I wanted to add $300 to that, making that $1,500 now instead of the $1,200 I requested. And for my office equipment, I had originally asked for $5,000 when I turned in the paperwork to Michelle, but I am getting a new copier, and I figured the cost will only go up where I would need $3,000 instead of the $5,000, possibly. So it makes my total budget, instead of being the 178,109, changes it to 176,409.
You would keep that.
On all of them?
No, just one.
Okay. It changes my total to $176,409. But went down 1,700 from what I requested.
For each department has $1,000 per line item increases. We're asking that you provide justification for those. So you said you had received notice about the conference.
Yeah, and I've got the email if you guys want.
We got both
Copy.
pass it around, that's fine.
Okay.
And then, same thing for your equipment, for your copier, if you could, you can send that to Michelle. She'll let us know once we have that. And then for the tax statements, if you just have like from last year, like an increase from prior year to this year, what that difference was, that would be helpful. We are at a time where, yes, there is inflation and there is increase in cost of living, but we're in a very tight budget season. So we're constrained with the budget, so we really need to see the dollars and cents as opposed to like general things that are going on in the economy. When we can actually see an increase, that's helpful. Okay, thank you. We'll give a minute for that to be passed around. Council, any questions for Nancy?
Your, from 23 to 24, your salaries, it's usually 5 to 6%.
Yeah, I use that.
Okay.
Do you have any department updates you want to share?
And it's going to send. We having tax sales in October, but doing updates on that, but otherwise.
So there's a tax sale, is that what you
It'll be in October.
We got Board of Finance meeting coming up.
I've got it scheduled tentatively for the 28th, and Daniel can already be there. I was gonna send you all an email next week. We will have an update, and I'll include you.
Okay, that'd be great.
We're getting ready to have some of our investments mature at the end of the month, 8/31, so we're gonna have a meeting on 8/28 with our wealth management advisor, but I'll send everybody emails. Just to get, I wanted to make it closer to the date that they mature, because it always takes a couple of days once it matures for it to get in there. So we have pretty accurate interest rates. But last time, some of my interest rates were like 3.4, they're up to 5.25, so it's kind of exciting now, so.
Thanks. Well, thank you for taking the lead on that.
That's an excellent job, but
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you very much. Okay.
That's it? Yeah, you got it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great to- Michelle, do you want to see if the coroner can go perhaps before the health department?
I do know that it cannot.
They cannot. Okay.
Just as yourself. Encourage everything.
Yeah, Brett has laid all of the board.
Bigger hands, more revenue up your. Better than paying for it, get that there, better stairs. But yeah, upstairs, but we did. Like. Let them do their thing. Yeah. Yeah. That. Yeah. Really, you know, but parents. Really, you know. Yeah. Yeah. How you doing this? Yeah. Oh, that's it.
We also.
Oh, yeah. I guess it caught on the way.
Okay, how's this called?
I guess. Yes, no. No. Like that. We'll need to see what shift it in. You got scanning done. Yeah. Get it on shape. Yeah. 41. Years, you go ahead you got. Yes, we're. That's it. Wait for it. We've already got. I didn't do that. After hours.
Yeah, and also extension before it's well large.
Yeah. Good afternoon. I was gonna say, just get through those. You don't get over the. But at some point. Yeah.
Michelle.
It's found. Yeah. Such. Yeah, I do that. What we know. Hey. We got.
Like, try to get them worse. You would. What's the amount of thing? You go. Expect by you. Is. Okay. Per time. You said that you were Yeah.
This is legal. Right. Question. Say, possible. Service.
Are you ready?
Ma'am, that's a yes or no question.
Are you ready? Yes. Maybe no, I thought he said it, maybe I was like, oh, for real. You're on a thing, basis.
Wow.
All right, you're on the surveyor. Thank you, Emily, for joining us. We are on page 12 and our records. All right, Emily, if you want to talk through, any changes to your budget and then give us an update on your department.
Okay. Normal things at first is raises for everybody in the office, and then the major changes we have. More of an increase in our office supply budget. Our chairs are like, we got all new chairs at the same time, all new computers at the same time, so we're all getting at the same time and ready to be replaced. We've been looking into chairs this year, hoping if we have extra funds this year, we'll use them in the year for new chairs. Been talking to Bill for computers. Two of our computers are 2018 editions, one is a 2019. He said after 4 or 5 years, we're going to get a new one, so this budget's for that. So we'll have 3 computers that need replaced. He said they're roughly $800 per computer. We have 6 screens and 100 replace all those at the same time, but if we do, looking at roughly $300 per screen. So stuff like that, like 3 new chairs. We've been trying out some chairs that have office supplies, so we're gonna see like $2,000 increase there. And then the next increase would just be for our mileage and lodging. I need to get some of my credits in for my classes, for my ASC stuff. 2 or 3 days at a time for the classes, so just other than that, that's all we got. Oh, and then our contract. I'm gonna ask to increase that. We won't always use it, so it's not guaranteeing it'll come out, but I called a couple of our licensed surveyors and talked to them about our $4,000 contract pricing. They said that's not realistic. Super low if we needed the job done. So they said after averaging it out with 3 or 4 of them, about $10,000 if we need a job done, or 2, it just depends. That would be more of a realistic yearly budget if we needed a survey done. Again, some years we'll get one or half, but other years that we do need one, they do more than the $4,000.
Emily, it sounds like you've been doing like the investigation for why you need to raise these line items. If you can provide Michelle a copy of the cost of the chairs, or cost of the computers and screens, and then, you mentioned the $400 increase for credits. If we, the mileage and lodging field, your professional development.
Just hotel and stays really.
Yeah, so if you can, write that down, and then also since you have reached out to other surveyors, if you can get those numbers that you put together and get those sent to Michelle. We've asked every department head if they are making increases to provide this information. It sounds like people have already done the due diligence there.
But now, this is represented. No complaints.
Council, any questions for Emily?
You have to use a con, under contract. Are you required to use contract deal with unique experts?
I'm not a licensed surveyor, so I can't do the jobs myself, so we have to contract out like Jeff Sauer, Daniel Blair, or anybody of those people to do a job. So like this past year, we had some jobs done. That didn't come out of my budget this year, but it will in the future. It's a county property, so we have to have a fund set aside to pay them. We've only used it since I've been in it twice.
Anything else?
You know, we have money left over in that line.
The contract,
I mean, it just varies from.
Yeah.
year depending on, I mean,
Yeah.
1 or 2 jobs for a surveyor, and it get eat up pretty quick.
yes.
It's kind of like legal fees. I feel like planning and, building and planning always allocate for legal fees, but they don't always have to use it, but
And surveyors, they, everyone call in will say, well, do you have a money lose on cost? Every surveyor's prices are different, so you can set them yourself, so.
I would say too, if you have quotes from Jeff and, you know, probably those are some good numbers.
Yeah, that's just talking about stuff, just kind of based off of this past year survey that we've had done. Not me personally, but.
I've had to use, I've used Daniel on my professional work and he gets the job done quickly, he's affordable, and then Jeff has been, you know, kind of serving for a long time, so he's amazing too, so. But I think you get good numbers from them that are not overinflated.
Yes.
All right, anything else for Emily?
Is there software? Are you?
Actually, we're running into some problems with our software downstairs, but that's more just like our Microsoft stuff. All of our other programs have today. We actually had Carrie Livingston in yesterday. He does our, property parcel. There's property cards in the assessor's office, and we have what we call our property cards downstairs. So that program was updated yesterday from what the programs are up today.
Wonderful. All right, anything else, Emily? All right, thank you.
Thank you. You guys have a good day.
Thank you for being here. Okay, Stephanie? All right, council, we are on the first budget on page 1 and your mind. Okay, Stephanie, you want to start out talking about any line item increases, and then you can give a general update for the department, and we'll ask questions. Okay.
Okay, so on the clerk side, the increase was basically on salaries, which, that's something that I will take my last breath trying to, get increased and get up to where they're comparable, with other counties of our size, and then what, my employees do as far as their duties. So that's where the increases come about. I do have a position open still that, for an employee departed from the county the end of May. And, since we're still under the first, second, and third deputy, that was the first deputy, position. And that employee did all the bookkeeping for child support and for, the court system for Odyssey, and then the child support cases, and other caseloads. So when that position came open, I promoted within and then restructured the caseloads and made that position third deputy position, where the job responsibilities would be, of course, counter work, and the bookkeeping aspect alone. And so I've been unsuccessful at this time to obtain another employee, because once someone, had many people apply, but of course, when they see bookkeeping, you're having bookkeepers apply and make 50,000, 60,000. That's not for me. Once they get the wages, that position at third deputy starts out at 34, 77. So we've been trying to creative and internally come up with how can we get an employee. At this point, we've been trying them from the ground up, which would be difficult, but it would be something that would be feasible. A lot of hard work internally.
With your positions, when you post your jobs, are you putting salary in there?
No, I am not. When what I have them do is either they email me in requesting an application, then I'll put it there, what it is. And then sometimes I'll just go ahead and automatically send their resume and their application, and then we talk about benefits and salary.
I guess the number is what it is. I feel like it might be helpful to go ahead and disclose that ahead of time.
Right. It's disclosed on the postings, but as far as online, it's not posted. It's just that first contact when they request application. I send that back to them and they're like, oh, they can, so we don't get into any kind of interview phase or anything. So we're currently working on the clerk side. And then, of course, every line item, all the way down through the clerk side, it's staying the same besides the salary increase that I requested. And of course, we have a clerk fund that I also utilize for records, for equipment. And so that you don't see that in the line item. That is basically one of the reasons why there's no increases on the other line item, because I'm able to use that fund.
And Stephanie, for the maintenance and repair, I think it was raised in 2020 to 5,000. Is that on par? Do you have money left over in that item? Do you know how much you've spent on that so far?
On maintenance and repairs, so far I've spent, $4,210.74. And that's on any kind of equipment. Sometimes, unbeknownst to me, there's software updates that is brought to my attention that needs to be done on our computer equipment. Usually I do try to get with Bill before my budget time, see if he is aware of anything that's coming up that I'm blindsided by. And there hasn't been, but like with the phones, for instance, like the headsets, you know, that was one of those things where like, hey, we changed phone systems, but hey, your headsets are not compatible. So,
Do you have any equipment in your office that was affected by the storms?
no. I think at one point, the commissioners, they had the building rented. But we haven't had any issues where onto my office or the other office. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Judge Medlock had an issue with the TV after the storm, so we were thinking through if there are any other departments.
Yeah, and basically like in ours, we also have surge protectors. I don't know if that's, yeah, it's like total duty.
Yes. Okay, we can move on to the election.
Yeah, so of course, the election, that's all, oh, I'm sorry, if I could jump back real quick, just on the clerk side. So, you know, postage, the actual postage is out of the commissioner's budget. But the supplies, for any postage, supplies, email supplies, that comes out of my budget. So, Judge Houchin, when he took office, we worked on, with all the postage increases, and like our certified mail, it's $6.73 in postage alone. Any court document that goes out certified mail. I purchase all of the envelopes that go out to the department, even the government building, for the certified mail. Those run about $1 a piece. So, in prior administration on the Superior Court, any kind of document that went out related to a case, they sent it out certified and first class mail. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, we've got all the paper that goes to that one document that's going out, plus the confirmed delivery envelopes, plus a regular envelope, plus the postage. So I averaged about $10 that an item was going out in correspondence on one case alone. So Judge Houchin did, you know, he was being conservative as well, come up with the idea of no matter what economic status or what kind of case you have coming through the court system, 9 times out of 10, you have a cell phone, you have an email address that's attached to that cell phone for any kind of service you're using on that. So during the case, while they're in court, is this, I need to confirm your email address, you'll get your court correspondence for any documents after your case or notification, you'll be notified by email. So that has actually worked. I can tell a difference. We're not going to know until the end of this year what 100% savings we're going to have. So we're talking about paper, we're talking about his budget as far as envelopes and paper, and then on confirmed delivery in my budget. So we have roughly a little over 3,000. And that's just our mail machine alone in our office for the Justice Center that we've saved so far from January 1st to August.
Which line item would that be under?
The postage is actually out of commissioner's line item. We contact the auditor's office and they transfer money to our meter. That's a commissioner's budget, but it's as far as the budget when it comes to postal supplies, confirmed delivery. That's all out of my budget because it's always been customary to the clerk supplies, child support, prosecutor's office, of course, with the confirmed delivery supplies.
Would that be under office supplies or printing and advertising? Where would you typically pull that from?
I usually toggle back and forth between the office supplies and then also, my clerk's fund.
Okay.
Yes. Because that's something that I don't have control over what departments, what they send out and what their caseloads are, how much correspondence. So I usually toggle back and forth, between those two line items. Yeah, so far, this is commissioner's budget, $11,724.50. And that's just our mail machine alone. That is housed in my office. So for instance, in 2020, we used in postage alone, $24,359.49. And we have 33,748 pieces of mail that my office processed. And again, that's 2020. Of course, that was a year that was more mail. But in 22, we processed in our office out of our mail machine 27,920 pieces of mail. And that's outgoing mail.
Any questions for Stephanie on this budget?
Yeah, why did absentee go to office 14 from 7,000 to 14,000?
It was never corrected. So for instance, like
Hold on, just 1 second. If we're gonna move on to election, we can move on to election. Okay. All right, so council, next page, county election board.
would you all give them the attachment with my budget? Copy of it, as far as
Possibly,
it's over the breakdown. Okay.
if you want to pass it around, that would be great.
Stephanie, could I have a copy too?
Yes.
Eventually. I mean, if you're running out.
Okay, so the election side, of course, is always tricky because it's the unknown. We have projected, items that by the state in the election division. So on, the salary, of course, I asked for an increase and we have been racking our brain in preparation for 2024. Because we know, in 2020 and 22, the, elections to keep up with them. It's a lot of long hours, weekends. So my first deputy, who usually is always her desk and on the clerk side, and she does double duty. And we man, since I've taken office, we man the election office by camera and by a doorbell. So me and her toggle in there to assist with services that are needed. So I would love to get a part-time position. If I could find somebody that would just be willing to come in during election time, during the early voting period, and then process voters. That way, myself and my election deputy can focus on the election prep, handling all the absentee ballot requests that come in, and just overall getting everything prepped. The phone rings off the hook, people are checking their voter registration, who are not comfortable with using IndianaVoters.com. So there's a lot of questions, dealing with candidates, dealing with the financial aspect of candidate files. So we would really appreciate to try to find somebody to stay in there during that time and just help during the election time. So it'd be a part-time, almost like a seasonal, if that would be something that could be done here in the county. And then the next, line item is election board, at the precincts, which are what's considered the poll workers. And so right now, a Republican inspector is at $130, a Republican judge is at 100, a Democratic judge is at 110. A Republican clerk is at $95 and a Republican or Democratic clerk is at $95. So I'd like to see an increase in the poll worker pay to try to be comparable with other surrounding counties. And I was notified I was chosen by the Secretary of State's office, myself and 9 other fellow clerks to be part of poll worker recruitment, trying to get in preparation for 2024. So we're working with the Secretary of State's office, trying to come up with how we can recruit poll workers. Because that's always been a struggle, and it's more of a struggle once our aging poll worker population that's always been dedicated is now not. So trying to get the enthusiasm of being a servant leader and a little bit of pay to work the polls. But unfortunately, the climate of elections sometimes and is projected to be turning even nastier. So I have a lot of poll workers that are in fear.
Different based on the polling location?
No, we've seen it across the board. You know, it was big, more poll workers eager to work during a pandemic election than we've seen even in the city election. It was hard to get poll workers, you know, just for what they see out in the media, the fear. And we have seen a lot more passionate voters in our county that didn't know existed. We've seen a lot of them in 2020. And I believe it was 2024 presidential election. That's going to be an increase in that.
Also have an increase for voter registration.
The voter registration, stipend to be compatible, you know, comparable to other counties, and it did slip through legislation. They're going to put it on legislation on the next round, according to our legislative clerk, who's on that board, where it's going to be a mandatory for counties that do not have voter registration boards to give that stipend to the clerk for being the overseer of voter registration. So that will be coming. That's just the line item projected to be proactive. And then, of course, I did increase as well the election board. We have had a turnover on the election board, unfortunately, the passing of Mr. Day, and then we had the next person in the Democratic Party chair changed them out as well. So with everything that we have going on, even with the city primary election, I will tell you as election administrator of the county, the city primary was more stressful due to complaints, calls to our office, was worse than the presidential election. I love serving my county, but when I get called at 6 o'clock in the morning on Sunday because of a post or letters that went out, I think that's becoming absurd at that point. So it's something that our election board members were contacted as well, multiple times, night, day, it didn't matter. So our election board has to stay intact. The amount of work that they do and the hours they put in, I think that would only be fair to increase their pay per election.
Evan,
Yes.
can a precinct committee people support you with workers?
What I did in 2020, I got to the party chairs and requested, as far as workers in-house or co-workers.
I'm talking about poll workers.
Yes, it is the job of the precinct committeeman to get the co-workers. And they get packed with cleaning up information, they get multiple calls, and it's still,
You're still lacking.
I'm still cracking the whip, and there's IC code. If those precinct committeemen do not get any poll workers in a timely fashion, then it's up to the county election board to set those poll workers.
you know, or talk to you a little bit before about that. And it seems like in my area, keeping Pierce, we really don't have that problem.
You don't. And you actually have 2 more coworkers than all the other precincts.
So if you ever need assistance with that, I can help with that.
Yeah, we get creative, a lot of long hours, and we have cancellation at the last minute. So, yeah, with 2 more coworkers, 2 more clerks at your location, and then there's not an issue at Pearson Pope. Moving on to the absentee board, and Philip had a question about that. That pay was increased, but the line item was not. So the last couple elections, I've gotten creative and had to transfer money over to line items to cover that. Because it was put in for 1 election instead of 2 elections. So that's where the line items actually need to be corrected.
I just couldn't figure out why.
Yeah, that's the only reason. It was increased to 7,000, based on the per day, if that was for 1 election.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then the travel board, that pay stays the same. Usually we get it all condensed down to 1 day. So they're not out multiple days for the travel board. The mechanics, so what they do, there's a bipartisan Republican and a Democrat, and they go out the day before the election and put out all the equipment and set up the polling locations, and then they're on duty the day of the election and taking anything out that needs to go to the precinct. And then the day after, then they break down those precincts and bring everything back. And I will tell you, those gentlemen, since we had electronic poll books, I head out with them at 5 in the morning the day before, and then the day after the election to pick up all the equipment, set up the poll books, make sure that they're buried on their hot spots and everything's ready to go. I always sent them out with a binder. I didn't realize until I started going out with them and working along with them all day, how much work it is to set up those polling locations, make sure everything's there. They travel through the county with their personal trucks. And I didn't realize until after I did their mileage on their vehicles, and they're pulling a 20-foot trailer fully loaded all through the county and back roads. They're actually going in the hole as far as when it comes to the reimbursement on their mileage. So it actually eats into their paycheck, or the reimbursement, because we have one of the employees does take a vacation, and it's lump sum, so he gets hit hard with taxes, so they don't come out with that much at all when it's said and done.
Is this the ABM mechanics plan item?
Yes,
Okay.
I think Mr. Roberts, you were a mechanic at one time with the horse trailer, so he knows setting up the equipment, all the polling locations, what that entails. That's tables, that's chairs. You know, every precinct location is different.
And then it does look like you also have an increase in ballots and an increase in the election board meals.
Right, so the actual, ballots, they've kept that price. They've held that price. Our election vendor, we have a good relationship with them, and, they will be going up. Because the cost of paper has went up. So, the increase on ballots will be going up. The election board meals, you'll see that the commissioners did increase, a couple years ago, but then I had to keep getting creative because of inflation. And so it got to the point where we were having to buy paper products out of another line item because any of the local caterers, restaurants could not afford, what we were able to reimburse them for. So the last couple elections, I've had to go, we started that in 2020, to buy the paper products, serviceware for all the polling locations. And so some of them, we contacted some churches, they have donated some of the groups, the Posey location, precinct, that fellowship, they have, donated. But still, as far as the amount, per coworker meals, I believe needs to be increased. And that's why the increase is on there. And then also those board meals comes the snacks. And the inspector of each precinct actually purchases the snacks and gets reimbursed. And a lot, after I go to reimburse them, a lot of them, some of them, because right now it's $35 a precinct for coworkers. Some of them get to be $34.99. Some of them, you go to reimburse them, you can see that they have donated some of their own funds for snacks. So that's just the $5 decrease, or increase, I'm sorry, per public location.
Okay, any other questions? Any questions for Stephanie?
And the one thing I was notified, the voting locations, that $500 was always on there in case we were ever charged rental. I was notified by the commander of the armory that, way above his head in Indianapolis, they're wanting to start charging, a fee for the rental. So that would be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, that we go in and set up. On that Monday, we're there all day Tuesday, and then that Wednesday, he is still fighting, with those above him, because he feels like he has a duty, for, especially at the armory, for them to not charge it, to put on an election. Because literally, like in presidential election, we are electing their commander, their head of chief, so.
Okay, Stephanie, we are asking all of the department heads, which I've reached out to you earlier about, any line item increases that you provide justification for. I, see that I have an email from you. I don't believe I forwarded that to the council. Some of these items that you have increases for, if you could show us the dollars and cents increases, like the ballot, for example, what it cost last year versus what it costs this year, that would be helpful. And any of those other increases that you asked for.
Okay, most of those increases are here on this paper, and then as far as the ballot, it's going to depend, that's going to be after your girls set your budget, because that's going to depend on how many, it's going to one order based on voter turnout formula.
Okay. Any other questions for Stephanie?
Yes.
Many hours or as much?
The salary is just a ballpark that's just put out there. I would like, after I submitted the budget, I was really looking at, for sure, getting the 28 days of early voting covered. I just didn't know if, under the guidelines of the county, if there would, because in my department, we had part-time employees at one time, then that practice was done away with. But I would love to have part-time or a seasonal employee that comes in to help out during that mad rush versus, and that would need to be set with the salary ordinance, because we never had. I put that $20 out there, 12,000 out there, as far as what am I going to have to get that accomplished? What am I going to have to do if I can't get a seasonal or part-time employee to come in? Because I know we did have, when I first started counting 2018, our department did have part-time employees that worked certain days a week. And that was about their salary. So if I'm forced to do that, that 25,000 would be the target salary. If we get a salary ordinance where I can have a seasonal election employee or a part-time employee, even if it's a retired individual that can come in, and literally they're going to be processing the voters as they come in to early vote.
Yeah, we've seen other departments that do have seasonal employees as well. Okay. Did you, your digitization project, has that been wrapped up?
It is not completely wrapped up, no. So, what we have left on that is they are finishing up the scan, and then we can start opening the portal, and then there will be, like, other surrounding counties, the description will open up to researchers. Because basically the researchers are getting paid to research documents. It's time that the county gets reimbursed, we can start recouping the money for the scanning project. We do have a few more boxes upstairs in the attic of tricodes. And then in the assessor's office, we have the records about 1,800 that are tricode as well. And we have a good relationship with the Indiana State Archives in Richardson. So we just have to get in there and inventory those, and they will take possession of those, restore them, and then we will have access through their portal for all of those tricode cases. That's just way too expensive to restore those, and you know, we also have a few books in the Williams Building left and a few books in my office that we would working on having the state take possession of those. And then we'll be done.
Awesome. All right, anything else, council? All right, thanks, Stephanie.
If you all have any questions after the fact, please do not hesitate. Either stop by the office, call, or call my